So, the question before us today is it okay to copy other people's work?
No, you can't copy. That's just wrong.
What do you want? I'm trying to do a video.
As a member in good standing of IMPS with a very low member number, I can't just sit here and let you put out this hippie nonsense.
Do you know the alphabet?
Well, of course I know the alphabet.
Do you know the alphabet?
Here, I'll prove it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah, okay, see, the problem with that is you're copying somebody else's song. Hate to break the news to you.
Why, I'd never thought about that. My entire education, it's been a fraud. I need to go think about this for a while.
Yeah, why don't you go think about that for a little while? Where was I? Oh yeah, copying other people's work. Now, the idea of copying others' work is something that I've seen come up on forums and social medias and in emails and messages to me and in discussions with other people. I've seen that for many, many years, going back basically to the time when I started back into the hobby in 2006. And I understand why there's some hesitation to copy because, you know, we tend to think in terms of what we do about copyright and originality and things like that. But when I see modelers saying, well, I'm planning on copying this or copying that, and somebody comes along and says, oh, you can't do that. Well, yeah, you can. It's your model. But I think there's some valid reasons that we have to say, you know, I am going to deliberately copy this other work. One reason, of course, is just learning in general. I mean, there's virtually nothing that we do in life where we haven't learned by copying somebody else. The silly example from the beginning of the video about the alphabet, it's a perfect example. You know, I'm glad that my wife had to have some surgery last year, and I'm glad that the doctor copied all of the people who trained him about how to do that correctly, and didn't have to invent his own method for that. You know, there's so many things that we do that in the process of learning that we copy others. So I would almost submit that you can't learn without copying. If you're a new modeler, you're copying every modeler before you in some way or another. And even if you're an experienced modeler using a technique, if you want to get really strict about it, then everything you do is copying because somebody's done that before. Probably, given the number of people on this planet, the number of models that have been built, probably with the same colors and the same tools and the same equipment and the same outcome as you have. So copying for learning's sake is almost ubiquitous. You can't learn without copying. I think I had mentioned in a previous video, yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I lose track. Anyway, I think I mentioned in a previous video that, you know, at one point I read about Leonardo da Vinci and that, you know, he would from time to time have an apprentice or something like that. Most painters, I guess, would. I'm no art historian, but, you know, I know what's on Wikipedia. But in the process of having an apprentice, the apprentice would learn to paint by copying the master. I mean, they wouldn't have said, well, you need to learn to paint. And they would say, well, you want me to copy that painting? You go, no, you can't copy. You have to go on your own and reinvent how to become a master painter all on your own and just, you'll do it in my studio so that it looks cool. No, they learned to paint by looking at someone who was an accomplished painter who already knew how to do that, and they painted. And they hopefully painted well, maybe made a living at it. It gets back to that alphabet. I learned the alphabet by listening to others who taught me the alphabet with that little song. Another area that it can be really helpful to copy, deliberately focus on something to copy, is when you're trying to learn to do a specific technique or learn a specific product. We have to copy in that situation. Recently, there was a new product that I got that I saw someone demonstrate on a video, and it looked interesting to me, so I ordered it. It showed up. I pulled the new product out of the box. I applied it to my model, and I went back to the video to see how did they do this. I copied it exactly because I wanted to know how to use this product specifically. Now, I tested other things beyond that, but my initial use was copying. So when there's a specific technique that we want to do or anything like that, we have to copy what someone else has done in order to get familiar with how to use it. There's no way to see what the parameters are that you can use this product within to make it work if you're not copying some kind of demonstration. I think one of the most frustrating experiences I've had is if I've found a product that there's no documentation for, and I haven't found any videos for, although nowadays it's hard to find something where there's not a YouTube video, but where I haven't found any of this stuff and I have to kind of guess at how it's used. And that discovering it like that, now you may find a way to discover to use it, but you may find out later, oh, that's completely not the intended thing. And yeah, it's cool to figure out alternative uses, but you're missing out on the primary form of use. In fact, in a recent video, there's a link up there, I talked about using style as a tool. You simply can't do that if you're not copying others. If you're not looking at someone else's style and you're specifically working to copy the things that you see in that style, the look of it, the techniques of it, the methods of application, the products, all of it. If you want to do that kind of style, for example, if you want to paint a machining Krieger model like Lincoln Wright, well, you have to watch Lincoln Wright's videos and check, I know he wants you to check out his Patreon, so check that out. You'd have to watch any of those things, and then you would have to apply it to your model in the same way. So copying for the sake of learning something specific is an absolute necessity. Now, to follow on that notion, but to expand on it in a slightly different direction, if you're going to deconstruct a style, let's say there's a style that you find that you like, a look on a model, and you really want to get to, okay, how did the artist arrive at that? Well, if you can't find some kind of documentation or some kind of, video about it, then probably what you're going to do is you're going to gather as many photos as you can of that model or that style, and then try and backtrack in what you see to figure out how did they do that. I've seen this in quite a few miniature painting videos where one in particular that I've seen in the last few weeks, the artist was examining the heavy metal style of painting. Heavy metal, no H, not heavy, heavy metal, is the studio within Games Workshop that paints the miniatures and the models for the Warhammer 40K and the other games that Games Workshop produces. They're the studio that produces what you see in the box art and the magazines and the publicity shots and all of that. Sometimes it's fairly simple paint jobs, sometimes it's extremely detailed stuff. But this YouTube creator was looking at, okay, here's the box art, how do we paint the model that way? And they really went through and looked at deconstructing what was done to achieve the look that they had on the box art, and then applying that to the model. Because the idea is, if you like that style, you have to deconstruct that style and copy it in order to achieve the same results that you see on the box or in the magazine. Now, another reason you may decide to copy something, and I would submit that it's perfectly okay to do so, is because you see something that looks cool. Maybe you're building a model and you go and you look for examples of that model online and you see one that somebody has done and you go, that's what I want sitting on my shelf. It looks awesome. That's what I want. Maybe it's the color scheme, maybe it's the weathering, maybe it's the decals, maybe it's all of the above. Maybe you want something that just duplicates that sitting on your shelf. I want it to look exactly like that. Well, that's what's fun for you. Do it. It helps with learning. It helps with all sorts of things. But if that's what you want sitting on your shelf, well, that's what you would want to do then. When I used to do commission build models, there were quite a few times that somebody would contact me and send me a specific photo. And they would say, not a historical photo, but a photo of a model. And they would say, I want you to build this for me, and I want it to look as close like this as possible. This is what I want. I want you to replicate what I see in this photo so I can have this model on my shelf. And so I would do all of those things. I would deconstruct it. I would try and figure out the different techniques. I would look at the different paints. If there was some kind of video or blog article about how the artist did it, I would look at that. But copying because it just looks cool and that's what you want. Well, again, we do that all the time. I mean, that's why we all wear the same clothes, because in some way we're trying to emulate the fashion that we see others wearing. Even if it's just a goofy old middle-aged guy like me wearing what I wear, I look like every other goofy old middle-aged guy. Now, I know there's going to be folks that say, like our friend Guy Roswell there at the beginning of the video, there's going to be people that say, well, you shouldn't copy. You just shouldn't copy. Okay, I get that. If you're in business and you're copying somebody else's work and selling it as an original and you're violating copyright, yeah, there's no doubt about that. But this is our hobby. This is even when we're trying to copy, we're going to end up with generally our own twist on everything. And that's another thing about copying. You copy this and then you copy that and you copy this and you copy that. And eventually you're going to get a whole amalgamation of styles together that your copying is going to build up into something that's uniquely yours. Now, you're always going to be adding to it. You're always going to be refining it. But very few would ever look at other things and copy them precisely, but not come away having learned something new application techniques, new ways of doing things that didn't spark ideas that they also rolled into what they were doing. So, and even if, I would make this argument, even if you have no originality whatsoever, no creativity whatsoever, but you're great at copying, well, that's what you have to fall back on. You know, the guy who never really, Leonardo's apprentice that never really learned to paint, well, he may have even made a living by sitting out on the streets, painting pictures of the Mona Lisa over and over again, and people would go, well, I can't have the real thing, but I can have this reproduction. And don't say, well, you're not supposed to copy in that way, because I've seen people got reproductions of the Mona Lisa on their walls in their house. You can't get the original, so you get a copy. Now, this isn't a definitive argument. There's going to be people that have differing opinions on this, and I understand that. There's probably already been comments dropped down below that before I even got to the end of the video. In fact, it probably got about right into that Guy Roswell bit, and somebody got upset because I poked fun at a certain organization just because I could. And there's already a comment there, the video turned off. I get that. This is just my opinion. But copying is okay. For the people who sometimes message me, or I see the question asked in other places and they go, well, is it okay to copy? Because this one guy that I know said it's really not okay to copy, and you shouldn't copy everybody. You should learn from it, but you shouldn't copy it. Well, how do you learn if you don't copy? Copy stuff. Learn from it. If you like copying something and you see something you want, copy it. If that's how you have fun in the hobby, do it. A lot of times people don't have time to spend hours and hours and hours invested in the hobby learning all these things. They may have a few hours on a weekend every now and then to do a little bit of work. And they say, I just don't have time to get this done. I know modelers who may get one model or two models done a year, and they don't have time to get invested in the whole enchilada that is our hobby. And so they say, so what I do when I get to the stage of where I'm doing this, I watch this video and I copy exactly what I do, because that's how I have fun, that's how I relax, that's how I enjoy it. So don't worry if somebody says, you shouldn't do that, because it's your model. Do what you want. Have fun with it. Well, I know this video hasn't demonstrated any kind of technique other than my poor videography capabilities and editing, but I hope that beginning was at least gave you a little bit of a chuckle. But it hasn't demonstrated any technique, but I hope it's given you something to think about, especially if you're new to the hobby, just getting into the hobby, and you're hearing all these voices on the socials and on forums and things like that telling you different things. And some of them are going to shout louder than others. And some of them maybe you want to listen to, but some of them you might want to sit back and go, does that make sense? Does that really hold water when you get right down to it? Even me, examine what I tell you. A lot of what I say may not make sense. I don't know that I make sense. But when the goal is about having fun, the hobby can be whatever you want it to be. You don't have to worry about what other people tell you it should be. And if the way you have fun, if the way you learn, if the way you grow is by copying other people's work, then copy away. I would never hold my work up to be something that's worth emulating necessary. I feel like I'm at most an experienced modeler who shows his journey on YouTube. That's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm documenting what I do and I'm trying to be helpful. But if you want to copy something I do, I hereby give you complete permission to do it. It's okay with me. I would be flattered to know that someone is trying to copy my work. So think about these things, and as you move forward, as I always say, think about the fun. That's what it's about. Well, you know what the rest of the video is about. There's a subscribe link down over here somewhere. I would be most grateful if you would click that, and also hit the little bell icon so you'll know when I have new videos coming out. And there's links down below to social media and my website. Check those out if you would. I would be very grateful if you would drop a comment down below and leave the video a like. It helps me grow the channel, which is something I'm trying to do, and I would appreciate your support. Also, please share on social media. That would help me out a whole lot. One of the links down below is for Patreon, and if you would like to support the work that I do, then check out what's available to patrons. And if you're already a Patreon supporter, thank you so much for supporting the work that I do. It's a blessing to me and it's a blessing to my family, because as I always say, but I mean it, I couldn't do all of the stuff that I do if it weren't for your support. You make this happen. All of the materials, all of the supplies, the being able to afford to do this at the pace that I do it is because of you. So thank you for your support and your continued support. It really means a lot to us. One final reason that you may copy somebody's work, and that's as an homage or to remember them, to honor them. So when I say at the end of each video, happy day to you, that's an homage to my dad. When he was alive, that's what he said to everybody. That's how everybody knew Mr. Wayne. He would always say happy day to you. So sometimes copying is to honor those who've come before us. So, as I always like to do, I'll leave you with one final thought. In this hobby, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Happy day to you, friends. Bye-bye.
Okay, let me try this one. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, that's Purple Haze. Can't copy that. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, that's The Doors. What's something original that I could do? A, B, C, D, E, F. Oh, no, that's Hank Williams, Sr., of course.